Hey people, hope you guys doing great. In today's video we will see, what if Naruto got harem with Gwen, Lindsay and Leshwana, part 1. Huge shout out to Moretsuna Sora for this story. If you end up liking this video please consider subscribe, and like the video, so let's start the story. Yo! We are coming at you live from Camp Wawanakwa, somewhere in Muskoka, Ontario, and I am your host Chris McLean, Chris said as he stepped out in front of the camera in front of him. And I am dropping season 1 of the hottest new reality show on television right now, he said as he started walking over, the camera following him as he did so. Here's the deal, 23 campers have signed up to spend 8 weeks at this crummy old summer camp. They will compete in challenges against each other, and then have to face the judgment of their fellow campers, he said as he came to stop at the cross-section of the T-shaped docks. Every 3 days one team will either win a reward or watch one of their team members walk down the dock of shame, take a ride on the loser boat, and leave Total Drama Island for good. The one left standing at the end will win cheesy tabloid fame and a small fortune that, let's face it, they will blow through in a week, he said as he held up a small treasure chest full of gold and gems. Every moment will be captured on one of the hundreds of cameras situated all over the camp, Chris added as they panned over to a few of the cameras before going back to him. Who will crumble under the pressure? Find out here right now on Total Drama Island, Chris said as the camera panned out and the cameraman motioned that the theme song was playing just as a boat pulled into the docks. Welcome back to Total Drama Island, where it is time to meet our first 12 campers. Now we told them they'd all be staying at a 5-star resort, so if they seem a little p.o'd then that's probably why, the host said with chuckle as the boat dropped off the first contestant before driving off to pick up the next. The first contestant off was a girl with a modest figure of a smaller chest of a low B cup and a pudgy rear. She was shorter than Chris, with brown hair done up in a high ponytail. She wore glasses and braces, her outfit consisting of pink pants, a teal top and a green vest that had numerous buttons on it. Beth. What's up? Chris said as the girl proceeded to run to him and hug him with a smile. It is so incredulous to meet you. Wow, you're much shorter in real life, Beth said as she stepped back, looking him over before noticing the camera and waving to it. Thanks, Chris said, a bit unsure about the girl before the boat returned and dropped the next camper off on the dock. This camper was a tall man with dark skin and a muscular build. He wore a green t-shirt with a white shirt under it and gray cargo shorts and a white beanie. Hey there DJ, Chris said as the tall man set down his 2 bags. Yo Chris McLean, how's it going? DJ asked as he gave the host a high five before looking around with a frown. Hey, you sure you got the right place here? Where's the hot tub at? He asked, unsure that they were at the right place before Chris nodded. Yo dog, this is it. Camp Wawanakwa, Chris said as DJ frowned and picked his bags back up and walked off to join where Beth was standing while the boat quickly dropped off the next contestant that quickly seemed like she wanted to already leave. The girl had teal and black, obviously dyed, black eyes, and teal lipstick-colored lips with pale skin. Her outfit of a top that looked like a corset top with light blue short sleeves and green longer sleeves showed off her mid-D cup chest due to the low cut, and her midriff due to how short it was. She also wore a black and teal skirt that was rather short with black tights and black knee-high boots. Hey Gwen, Chris said as Gwen frowned and walked forward, reluctantly picking up her bags before walking towards the host. You mean we're staying here? She asked as Chris shook his head. No, you're staying here. My crib is an Airstream with AC that-a-way, Chris said as he pointed back behind him with a smirk that only made the girl glare at him. I did not sign up for this, she said as Chris' smirk grew and he held up a thick stack of papers. Actually you did, he said, holding it up before Gwen took it from him and ripped it up with a smirk of her own that flattered when she saw his didn't. The great thing about lawyers is they make lots of copies, he said as he held up another stack of paper that made Gwen groan and pick up her bags. I am not staying here, she as Chris shrugged his shoulders. Cool. I hope you can swim though because your ride left long ago and the drivers are ordered not to pick anyone up, he said as Gwen turned to see the boat was gone, making her sigh and walk off before the next contestant's boat pulled up. This boat was blaring music as it drove up to the dock, the contestant on it jamming out to it before cartwheeling off boat with his luggage dropped off after him. The guy had blonde hair, his bangs being the only part that were visible under his cowboy hat. He wore an open pink flannel shirt, which showed off his muscles and abs, and blue shorts and sandals as he made his way towards Chris. "Chris McLean! Sup, man? It's an honor to meet you, man," he said as Chris bumped fists with him. "The Jeffster, welcome to the island, man," Chris said as Jeff chuckled and high-fived the host. "Thanks, man," Jeff said as he walked over to the other contestants, ignoring the groan of annoyance from Gwen at the use of dude every sentence while the boat dropped off the next contestant. "Everybody, this is Lindsay," Chris said as they looked towards the next contestant to see a girl who was the very definition of a bombshell. She was a rather tall blonde-haired blue-eyed girl, her hair kept back with a blue bandana on her head. She wore a red tube top under a brown tank top, both of which did little to contain her rather large J-cup chest and also showed off a generous amount of cleavage, and an orange skirt with cowgirl boots to finish off her outfit. "Not too shabby," Chris whispered into the camera as Lindsay walked over to him. "Hi! You look so familiar," she said as Chris smirked. "I'm Chris McLean," he said as he was used to people noticing him at first glance only for him to frown as Lindsay looked absolutely lost. "The host of the show," he said, hoping this jogged her memory. "Oh, that's where I know you from," she said as Chris sighed and she walked away just as the next boat arrived. The next girl walked off the boat with an aura around her that screamed angry. She had long straight black hair and gray eyes, which were visible once she took off her sunglasses. Her outfit consisting of a dull maroon halter tube top, which pushed up and showed off her low C-cup chest, and incredibly short beige shorts that showed off her legs and but nicely. "Heather," Chris said as said girl stomped over to him, her fists clenched as she looked at him and immediately walked past him. Everybody though turned to the dock as the sound of an electric guitar filled the air. "Is that AC/DC?" DJ asked as they turned to see the next contestant sitting on the front of the boat playing a guitar that was currently connected to a portable amp that was strapped to his hip. The man had spiky blonde hair that stuck out in every direction, defying gravity, as two spiky bangs framed his tanned and oddly whiskered face. The man was smiling with his eyes closed as he seemingly wasn't playing for intimidation but because he enjoyed it. He wore a red trench coat that had black flames lining around the bottom of it with a black button shirt, an orange vest underneath along with black cargo pants, and black boots. The guitar that the amp was attached to was a dark red Gibson Les Paul that hung off of him by a black shoulder strap. From what they could see of his figure under his clothes he was muscular but not super overly so. It showed he was definitely strong and toned but not steroid big or anything remotely like it. "A nice little island you got here, Chris. Should have expected since a 5-star resort never seemed your kind of thing," the man said as he picked up his bags and stepped off the boat while Chris chuckled. "Nice to see you made it, Naruto, and nice entrance. What song was that exactly?" Chris asked as Naruto smirked. "To those about to rock, I felt it was a nice song to arrive with," he said as he looked over towards the others, allowing them to see his bright blue eyes that looked them over. "Are these the other contestants?" he asked as Chris nodded and Naruto walked over to them. "Nice to meet you all," Naruto said before a familiar song was heard coming closer, causing them to turn around to see the next contestant showing up as rock music blared from an amp that was set up on the front. The guy had incredibly short black hair with a dyed green mohawk and a small black goatee. He had 2 piercings in each ear and one through his left eyebrow. His outfit consisted of a spiked collar around his neck, a black shirt with a skull on the front, white long-sleeve undershirt, blue shorts, and a pair of red Converse shoes. "Duncan, dude, nice choice of songs though we already had someone play some music coming in so you're a bit behind," Chris said as Duncan hopped off the boat with his bag and glared at the host. "I don't like surprises," Duncan said as he held up his fist towards Chris while the host just crossed his arms with a smug smile. "Yeah, your parole officer warned me about that man. He also told me to give him a holler any time and have you return to juvie," he said, making Duncan roll his eyes before smirking. "Okay then," he said as he picked up his bag off the dock and made his way over to the others. "Meet you by the campfire, gorgeous," Duncan said with a smile towards Heather as she rolled her eyes at him. "Drop dead you skis," Heather said before she stomped over to her bags. I am so calling my parents, you cannot make me stay here, she added as Chris merely waved the contract at her before Duncan set his bags near them. Wasn't that a song by Jinchuriki? Nice choice, Naruto said with a smile as he sat on one of the dock's posts, continuing to strum his guitar. Nice job catching that, surprised others actually know of them. Nice Gibson by the way, man, Duncan said with a smirk, earning a nod of thanks from Naruto as they bumped fists before the next boat started to come in, honking its horn. As they turned to see the next contestant, they watched as his boat drove towards them while they were apparently water skiing behind the boat. The guy seemed to be wearing a red track suit with a matching headband to keep his shoulder-length brown hair in place. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyler! Chris introduced as Tyler waved before the little stability he had was lost, and he started to roll and skip across the water before hitting the dock, getting sent flying up, only to crash into the pile of luggage that sent one bag into the water as well as drenching a nearby heather. Wicked wipeout, man! Chris said as Tyler's arm popped out from under the luggage to give a thumbs up to show that he was okay. The host chuckled as he watched a soaking wet heather stomp away before a long sigh was let out behind him by the next contestant that just arrived. The contestant was rather lanky with shaggy brown hair and peach fuzz of a goatee on his chin. He wore glasses, a blue t-shirt with a burger on the front, a salmon-colored long-sleeved shirt under it, murky green jeans, and a pair of sneakers while he held a keyboard piano under one arm. Welcome to Camp Harold, Chris said as Harold looked around for a minute or two, which confused some of the contestants, before turning back to Chris. So you mean this show is at a crappy summer camp and not on some big stage or something? Harold said as Chris nodded with a smile. You got it, Chris said before Harold pumped his fist. Yes. That is so much more favorable to my skills, Harold said before he walked away, making Chris shiver from being weirded out by the odd contestant before the next one arrived. Next one up is Trent, Chris said as Trent walked off his boat and towards the host. Trent has short black hair with green eyes. His outfit consisted of a tan shirt with a black handprint on the front, a camo long-sleeve shirt underneath, black jeans, and tan sneakers. He too was holding an instrument, but his being a guitar in a case. Hey, good to see you, man. I saw you on that figure skating show. Nice work, Trent said he and Chris bumped fists. Hey, thanks, man. I knew I rocked that show, Chris said as Beth rose her hand. Oh, I saw that. One of the guys dropped his partner on her head, so they got immunity that week, Beth said as Harold scoffed. Lucky. I hope I get dropped on my head, Harold said as Lindsay nodded along. Me too, she said cheerfully while some of the campers were a bit worried about them. So this is it? Trent asked as he looked around him and at the other contestants before Harold disgustingly stuck his finger in his nose, making everyone around him scoot away. Alrighty then, he said as he walked over, standing in the space left by people scooting away from Harold, putting him next to Naruto. Nice guitar, man. Mine's acoustic, Trent said as Naruto smiled. Very nice. I would have brought my acoustic one, but I'm more of an electric guy myself, Naruto said as he continued to strum on his guitar, something no one had seemingly minded, as Trent nodded understandingly before they turned as the next boat arrived. The contestant at the front this time was a blonde-haired girl, her hair done in a ponytail and her amber eyes looking around as she walked forward with her orange and red surfboard in hand. She had a modest figure with a low C-cup chest, hidden by the blue hoodie she wore along with dull blue shorts and a pair of flip-flops. Hey, what's up? She said, standing up her board on its end and held onto it while looking towards the host. All right. Our surfer chick Bridget is here, Chris said before Duncan scoffed. Nice board, this ain't Malibu, honey, Duncan said as Bridget shrugged her shoulders. I thought we were going to be on a beach, she said while Chris nodded. We are, he said as the camera moved over to a seagull with the packaging of a six-pack stuck around its neck before a water came up and let it float out into the water. Great, Bridget said disappointingly before Chris smiled. All right, that makes out, Chris said before he was interrupted by Bridget's board hitting him in the head as she leaned down to pick up her bag. Darn it, that hurt, Chris complained as Bridget walked off with a smirk. Hey guys, Bridget said as she walked over to some of the male campers. Hey, I'm Jeff, Jeff said as he moved away from the other guys. Hey, what's up? She asked as she turned around to see him, causing her to wave her board towards the guys, causing them to duck to avoid being hit. Dang, watch the board, man! Harold said before Beth walked up to introduce herself as she stood beside Trent. Hi. I'm Beth, the girl said, with an excited smile, happy to meet new people. Hey, Bridget said, once again turning around and almost hitting Duncan, Trent, and Harold with her board. Okay, people, stop making her turn around and almost smack the guys off the dock, Naruto said as while he was safe on his post beside Gwen he didn't feel like watching the commotion of it all and annoyance of those pushed in that came after. Okay, we've all met Surfer Girl. Can we get on with the show, please? Heather said as she wrung out the water from her hair beside Tyler, who had finally gotten out from under the bags. Someone missed their double cappuccino macchiato this morning, Duncan teased while Harold chuckled beside him. Dead bent, Heather sneered as she lightly glared at Duncan just as the next boat dropped off the next camper. The camper was a male with somewhat neat but shaggy hair. He wore a blue short-sleeved button-up shirt with a red vest over it, and a white long-sleeved shirt under everything, finishing it off with dull gray shorts and darker gray sneakers. Our next camper is Noah, Chris said as he rubbed his head, it's still hurting from Bridget. You got my memo about my life-threatening allergies? Noah asked as he walked up to Chris with his bag in hand. I'm sure someone did, Chris said as Noah kept on walking past Chris with a disinterested look on his face. Good. Is this where we're staying? Noah asked, pointing to the camp with mild disgust. No. It's your mother's house and we're throwing a party, Duncan said as he popped his knuckles with a smirk on his face. Cute. Nice piercings. Original. Do them yourself? Noah said with heavy sarcasm as Duncan grabbed Noah's lip and pulled out a needle, ready to make a hole for a piercing in it. Ugh, no thanks. Can I have my lip back, please? Noah asked, completely unfazed by Duncan before the punk let it go with a smirk. Thanks, Noah added before the next camper arrived. The next woman was definitely curvy with a full figure, her chest easily being G-cup with a large and firm rear on her. She had dark skin, her black hair pulled back in a ponytail with dark eyes and a beauty mark on her right cheek. He wore a tight beige top that had 4 oranges going across her chest and dull blue shorts, finishing it off with a pair of sandals. What's up, y'all? Leshwana's in the house, Leshwana said as she waved to them while her boat pulled up. Yo baby, hey, how you doing? How's it going? Leshwana said as she passed by Chris, giving him a high five before she continued on towards the other campers. Feel free to quit now and save yourselves the trouble cause I came to win, Leshwana said to the campers as Naruto chuckled and looked at her. Confident, I like it. We'll see how well it goes when the game begins, Naruto said, earning a smirk and playful wink from Leshwana before she made her way over to DJ. Oh, what's up, my brother? Give me some sugar, baby, she said as she gave DJ a high five before Harold popped up behind her. I've never seen a girl like you in real life before, Harold said while Leshwana rose her eyebrow at him and put her hands on her hips. Excuse me? She asked as Harold held his hands up. You're real big and loud, the nerdy man said as Leshwana narrowed her eyes. What did you say to me? Oh no, you didn't. You have not seen anything yet, Leshwana yelled as she stomped towards the pencil-thin nerd, rolling up her sleeves. I'll show you, big baby, Leshwana said, about to pounce before Naruto quickly handed Gwen his guitar and rushed forward, after getting a nod from DJ, to help him keep Leshwana from attacking the boy. Easy there, Leshwana, no need to break him. I'm sure the breeze or anything over 10 pounds will do it for you, Naruto said as Leshwana tried to keep pushing herself towards the scrawny boy who did ridiculous karate chops, on one leg towards her. All right, campers. Settle down, Chris said as Leshwana calmed down, allowing Naruto and DJ to let her go as she adjusted and fixed her shirt, before the blonde-haired guitarist went back over to Gwen, who handed him back his guitar with a smirk. Sorry about that, you were closest and I didn't want Leshwana murdering the string bean on live television, Naruto said as he put his guitar back on him and plugged it back into the amp. No problem, and at least I can say I've held an expensive guitar like that. How did you get it, by the way? Gwen asked as she had seen how much less Paul's went for, and they were not cheap in any way. My old man has a friend who knows someone who makes these. The man owed my dad, so he gave him a guitar that my dad wanted to give to me for my birthday, and to show he supported me in my dream. Had it with me for a couple years now. Though how did you know it was an expensive guitar? Naruto asked as Gwen smiled and brushed some hair behind her ear. An artist I like uses a guitar like this, but his is more of an orangish gold, she said as Naruto nodded. That sounds pretty cool. If you ever want to give my guitar a go, just ask, since I don't picture you as the guitar trashing type, he teased before she rolled her eyes with a slight smirk. I can't really play, never been able to really find the time, she said as he shook his head. That's no good. How about if you decide differently, just ask and I'll be more than happy to teach you. Being able to play and create music is incredibly relaxing, something I feel we might need to survive this island, he joked, making Gwen smile and nod a bit before the next boat pulled in. This time it seemed to drop off two girls who were wearing complete matching hairstyles of black with pigtails, as well as outfits of black and white short tops and pink short shorts. The girl on the left was the taller and skinnier of the two, with tan skin, low B-cup chest and a bubbly rear, while the girl on the right was chubbier with a low C-cup chest and larger rear. Ladies! Sadie, Katie! Welcome to your new home for 8 weeks, Chris said as he motioned towards the camp as the two girls looked it over. Sadie, look! It's a summer camp. The tan girl they now figured to be Katie said to the chubbier girl now known as Sadie, who happily clapped her hands. Okay, I always wanted to go to summer camp, she said before she and Katie let out an excited squeal and rushed off to the other campers, somewhat confusing Chris before the next boat arrived and quickly dropped off the next camper. This contestant was a boy barely shorter than Chris. He wore a blue beanie over his shaggy brown hair, a dull green hoodie, blue jeans and dull green shoes. From first look he looked a bit not there. Ezekiel! What's up, man? Chris said as Ezekiel immediately looked up before pointing at something. I think I see a bird, he said as a few other campers chuckled more at Ezekiel than at the joke. Okay, look dude. I know you don't get out much. Been homeschooled your whole life, raised by freaky prairie people. Just don't say much and try not to get kicked off too early, okay? Chris said before he softly pushed Ezekiel on towards the other campers. Yes, sir, Ezekiel said as the next boat quickly arrived and dropped off the next guy. This kid was also a bit scrawny with short brown hair, wearing a long-sleeved white button-up shirt under a cream-colored t-shirt that had a blue and red line across the front of it, with blue jeans, a pair of sneakers to finish it off. Cody. The Codester. The Codemeister, Chris said as he and Cody did finger guns towards each other before high-fiving. Dude, psyched to be here, man, Cody said as he walked over to the other contestants. I see the ladies have already arrived, he added as he winked towards some of the girls, only for them to look either confused at Cody or slightly roll their eyes at him. Though before Cody could say anything to Leshwana, she held her finger up to his lips. Save it short, stuff, she said before Cody nodded and walked away just as the next girl walked off the boat. The next girl had an aura of power around her, as she was toned with muscles. She had black hair pulled back into a ponytail, her amber eyes glaring ahead, her face neutral, as she also had a beauty mark above her lip on the left side. She had a rather large chest as well that, while not on Lindsay's level, was easily an H-cup that was bound in a tight blue top, as her toned rear somewhat hidden by her shorts, as her outfit was finished with a pair of calf-high socks and sneakers. Eva? Chris said unsure as Eva kept walking past him. Nice. Glad you could make it, he added as Eva reached the others, ignoring Cody's attempt for a high five before she dropped her bag, which contained her weights by the outline of it, on his foot, making some people wince and others chuckle or smirk. What's in there? Dumbbells? Cody asked as he cradled his foot in his hands while hopping a bit. Yes, Eva said shortly as Duncan chuckled and looked over to DJ and Naruto, the two stronger-looking men on the island, before another boat drove up. Woohoo! Chris, what's happening? A man yelled as he stepped off the boat. The guy was rather large in both height and size, with shaggy blonde hair, as he wore a sleeveless white shirt with a blue maple leaf on the front and a pair of green shorts. Chris had to pick his ear a bit to alleviate any ringing before the guy laughed excitedly. This is awesome! Woohoo! The guy cheered as Chris smiled and pointed his fingers at the guy. Owen! Welcome! Chris said before Owen picked the host up in a bear hug. Awesome to be here, man! Yeah! Man, this is just so... Owen said as he paused, unable to think of the word as Chris looked like he had trouble breathing. Awesome? Gwen said with a smirk as Owen nodded. Yes, awesome! Woo! Are you going to be on my team? Owen asked. Gwen rolled her eyes and wagged her finger around in a circle unenthusiastically. Oh, I sure hope so, she said sarcastically before Owen let out a cheer. You about finished? Chris asked as he was getting tired of being held by the large man as Owen thankfully set him back down. Sorry, dude, I'm just so psyched. Owen cheered as another boat pulled up. Cool. And here comes Courtney, Chris said before he helped the next girl off from the front of the boat. The girl had tan skin with freckles across the bridge of her nose, short brown hair that went down to her shoulders. She wore a gray sweater with a white long-sleeve button shirt that had its sleeves rolled up. Underneath that did well to accentuate her DD-cup chest. Her dull green pants also did well to squeeze on her rear, which looked quite firm and full. She smiled as she walked over to everyone else before stopping a bit to introduce herself. Hi! You must be the other contestants. It's really nice to meet you all, Courtney said with a smile before Owen grabbed her hand to shake it. How's it going? I'm Owen, Owen said as he excitedly shook her hand. Nice to meet you. Oh, wow, she said before she drifted off after looking behind her after hearing another boat pull up only to be in shock at who it was. The man was definitely good-looking with blue eyes, short dark brown hair, chiseled features, and toned lean muscles. He wore a dark green shirt that was basically clinging to his chest and baggy gray jeans. As he stepped off the boat, Naruto chuckled as he watched the effects the guy was having on some of the girls, from the stone-faced Eva to even oddly Owen. What, you're not going mushy for Mr. Model over there? Naruto asked as Gwen was seemingly the only girl not drooling over the guy while she disinterestedly filed her nails. I mean, sure, he's good looking, but he seems like the kind to be a bit only about looks. Seen enough of those back at my high school, Gwen said while Naruto nodded and they turned back towards the guy as he walked towards Chris. This is Justin. Chris introduced Justin before bumping fists with him. Welcome to Total Drama Island, he said as Justin nodded. Thanks, Chris. This is great, he said while he looked around a bit. Just so you know, we picked you based entirely on your looks, Chris said while Justin shrugged his shoulders. I can deal with that, Justin said before walking towards the others while the girls continued to moderately drool over him. Hey everyone! Izzy! Chris said, hoping to snap them out of their stupor as the next girl came in her boat. The girl had wavy orange hair and bright green eyes. Her outfit was rather odd as she wore a very tiny sleeveless green top that pushed up low C-cup chest, and while it went up to her neck did show off some cleavage with the keyhole triangle in the front. For pants she wore a two-tone green sarong and a pair of green slippers for shoes. Hi, Chris. Hi, Izzy excitedly said as she ran up to the front of the boat only to trip, fall off the boat, and slam her chin onto the edge of the pier, making everyone wince as she fell down into the water. Ooh, that was bad. Tyler chuckled as Naruto sighed and rolled his eyes, handing his guitar to Gwen again, who chuckled and nodded, as he decided he might as be the only one to help her since no one else was. Like yours was any better, dude, Naruto said as he and Courtney went over to help Izzy out of the water. Thanks for helping, Courtney said as she was a bit upset no one else tried to help before they watched the orange-haired girl shake herself dry with a smile. That felt so good, Izzy said with a giggle before she put her hands on her head. Except for hitting my chin. This is a summer camp? That is so cool. Do you have papier-mâché here? Are we having lunch soon? Izzy rattled off rapid fire as Naruto chuckled. Well, she seems okay-ish, Naruto said lowly to Courtney before accepting his guitar back from Gwen. First things first. We need a group photo for the promos. Everyone on the end of the dock, Chris said as Naruto sighed and carefully put his guitar and amp in their waterproof cases before following everyone else as they made their way down. What, no guitar? Gwen joked as Naruto shook his head. Not that close to the water, especially considering how much it's worth, Naruto said with a smirk before Gwen nodded understandingly and made her way over with him. As everyone got in their poses, Naruto choosing to stand there, his arms crossed with a smirk beside Trent as Gwen leaned against him with a smile, Chris hopped up on the boat that Izzy had come in on. Okay. 1, 2, 3, now everyone say Wawanakwa, he said as everyone said it just as the dock started to quiver underneath them, and just as the picture was taken they all were dropped into the water below. Okay guys. Dry off, get changed or whatever and meet me back at the beach in 10, Chris said as everyone groaned. See, that is why I didn't bring my guitar, Naruto droned out as he and Gwen made their way to the shore. POV change Naruto. Naruto groaned as he dried himself off, thankful he didn't keep his guitar on him, or keep anything important in his pockets, as he figured Chris might do something like this. So far though he was excited to see how this all would go down, as honestly the only reason he agreed to go on this show, after a good friend of his mentioned it to him, was because he figured it could be a nice breather from his intense job. That, and it could prove to be fun given the characters around him, especially since they didn't know who he really was. Not like he'd tell them anytime soon or risk being treated differently. Ugh, I think I still have water in my ear, Gwen groaned as she patted the side of her head in an attempt to get it out while she stood at the beach alongside the other campers in front of two odd poles that weren't here early. Yeah, a lot of us do. I swear that man planned this from the start. Though I am curious what he has planned for these things, Naruto said as he looked over the poles. Oh! Maybe we have to pull them up from the ground or something like that, Izzy said as she poked her head over his shoulder. Hey, I really like your whiskers. Reminds me of a kitty cat. Are they tattoos? She asked as she quickly started rubbing her fingers over them with a big smile. They are birthmarks and I like to think they look like a fox's whiskers, he told her as he grinned at her to show off his sharp canines while he gently took her hands off his cheeks, which made her pout for a second before smiling at him. That is so cool. I can definitely see a fox now, cute and cuddly, she rattled on before running off to another place in the crowd with a last-minute wink and smirk at him. Whatever he has planned for them, he shouldn't keep us waiting since he told us to be here, Heather groaned out as the host was nowhere to be seen. Oh, chill out, not like we have anywhere to be, Duncan said with a scoff while rolling his eyes before the host pulled up on a quad. Welcome campers to Camp Wawanakwa, Chris said as he parked and turned off the quad. This will be your camp for the next 8 weeks. The campers standing around you will be your cabin mates, your competition, and maybe even your friends. The camper who manages to stay on Total Drama Island the longest without getting voted off will win $100,000, Chris said as Duncan stepped out from the group of others. Excuse me, Chris, what will the sleeping arrangements be on here, because I'd like to request a bunk under her, Duncan said, pointing to Heather, who didn't seem to be too happy. I doubt he'd make them co-eds, so don't worry too much, Naruto told her, making Heather give a sigh of relief, since as much as Chris probably wanted to so that drama could be stirred up, he doubted it'd be allowed with kids ranging from 16 to 18. Naruto is right. Girls get one side of each cabin while dudes get the other, Chris said before Lindsay rose her hand. Excuse me, Kyle? Can I have a cabin with a lake view because I'm the prettiest? Lindsay asked as Chris dryly chuckled. Okay, you are, but that isn't how it will work here. And it's Chris said before pulling out a piece of paper. So here's the deal in terms of teams. In a bit I will be splitting the 22 of you into 2 teams, Chris added before Courtney raised her hand. Yes, Courtney? Chris asked as she stepped out from the other campers. Yeah, Chris, there are 23 of us and that doesn't really make for even teams, she said as Chris nodded with a smile. Yes, thank you for noticing, as it allows me to start our first instant nomination challenge, Chris said as he pulled out 2 boxes with a circle cut out from the top before kicking a large spool nearby that unrolled across the beach, leaving behind a rope line on the sand. Wait, instant elimination? As in we just got here and we might go home? Beth asked worriedly as Chris nodded. Yes, in a challenge I like to call kicking and screaming, and here are the rules, Chris said as he motioned towards the 2 large poles. It consists of 4 rounds where I will pick 2 names, one out of girl box and one out of the boy," he said while shaking the boxes. "And those two will go on the pole. Then I do it again twice to pick the boy-girl duo who will try and pry said girl or boy off of the pole. FYI, you can't punch or do anything like that to get them off, you have to pull them off," he said, looking at Duncan, who scoffed and looked away upset, as that was probably his plan. "Once off the pole, you must get them across the line. First person on the pole to be removed and dragged past this line is up for elimination, as well as those who couldn't get their person off the pole. Those who stay on the pole and have gotten their person off the pole are safe. So you kind of want to be on the pole but also don't," Chris said with a chuckle, as he could see people debating whether or not they wanted to have their name pulled for the pole. And again, due to numbers of having 12 boys and 11 girls, one girl at the last round will have her name pulled back out from the past names at random, and whatever team she ends up being on will get help on the next challenge. "Does everybody have the rules?" Chris asked, as the consensus of them nodded, making him smile. "Good, so let's begin with the first two names. For the boys we have Tyler. And for the girls we have Katie. You two are first on the poles," Chris said, as Tyler let out an excited cheer while Katie looked nervous. "Pulling off Tyler we have Trent and Sadie," Chris said, as Katie's other half let out a sigh of relief. "While for pulling off Katie we have Harold and Bridget," he added, having pulled out the names as the people picked walked up to the line, ready to run. "Ready, go!" Chris yelled as the ones he had chosen darted towards the poles. "Good luck trying to get me off, you guys. My athletic body will keep me on this pole, so give up now," Tyler bragged, as Trent was already making progress on his legs. "Harold, how about you actually start helping instead of ridiculously chopping her hands like that?" Bridget said, as the nerd was standing on one leg while doing his weak chops on Katie's hands while she was left alone to pull at Katie's legs. "I am helping. My judo martial arts will make her body weak and we will win," Harold said before a throat was cleared. "You aren't doing judo, you idiot!" Naruto yelled, as people looked at him a bit weird. "What? My mom runs a dojo of several martial arts," Naruto said, as the campers nodded and turned back to the challenge quickly to find Sadie ticking Tyler, who was barely holding onto his pole with just his arms while Trent was holding onto and pulling on Tyler's legs. "And no fair! Why you can't tickle?" Tyler said, his voice shaking, as were his arms, as he visibly tried to keep from laughing. "Chris said we could do anything but punching or stuff like that. Tickling is fine," Sadie said, as she started to tickle him even more, causing his arms to give out and start to squirm while laughing, giving Trent the window to quickly start pulling Tyler past the line. "And the first round goes to Trent and Sadie, who are safe from elimination, as is Katie for surviving," Chris said, as Bridget sent a light glare towards Harold, who seemingly didn't notice as he walked off. "And now on to round 2 with Jeff and Heather on the poles. Jeff gets Courtney and Owen while Heather gets Cody and out Eva," Chris said with a chuckle while Heather paled a bit while Eva cracked her knuckles. "She can't break my bones to pull me off, can she?" Heather asked, as Chris nodded. "The lawyers say no bodily harm such as punching, breaking anything, or biting. Everything else is fair game, and you can even kick at them when they drag you away. Hence the name," Chris said, as Heather nodded and sat down behind the pole, tightly hugging it as Jeff cheered beside her. "Ready, go!" Chris said, as the next 4 people rushed towards their poles. "Come, Owen, my man, you can do better than that," Jeff taunted, as Owen and Courtney tried to pull at Jeff, only to realize his muscles weren't just to show off. Eva, though, charged ahead, in front of the nervous Cody that didn't want to get in her way, and almost immediately pulled Heather's arms off the pole with her superior strength. "No! Let me go!" Heather yelled, as she squirmed, only to find herself picked up by Eva. Heather quickly found, no matter how much she tried to struggle, kick, or squirm, Eva's grip and strength left her totally outmatched as she found herself past the line and tossed off Eva's shoulder and onto her butt. "At least give me a challenge, Chris," Eva said with a smirk, as Chris clapped with a chuckle. "Don't know what I was expecting, but Eva, Cody, and Jeff win immunity. Great show of strength there, Eva," Chris congratulated, as Eva shrugged her shoulders, still smirking, while he went to pull the next set of names. "Next up on the pole, after that short match, are Noah and Izzy. Noah, you have Beth and Duncan, while Izzy you have Justin and Lindsay," Chris said before pointing to Duncan. Though before anything, please hand over the needle you have, Duncan. Chris added, making the punk tsk and pull it out with a frown, making Noah let out a thankful sigh and not having to get pricked by the punk. Oh, I'm so excited. Reminds me of protests where you chain yourself to a tree or something, Izzy said with an excited and hyper giggle as she hugged onto the pole with her arms and legs. Might as well get this over with, Noah said unenthusiastically before he hugged the pole as well. Okay then, ready, go! Chris said as Duncan was the first of the line with Beth running after him, while Lindsay was taking her time and Justin seemed not too interested either. How about you make this easy or else this might hurt? Duncan said as he cracked his knuckles while looking down at Noah while Beth stood off to one side, unsure of what to do. Whatever, as I said, get this over with, Noah said as he let go and allowed Duncan to pull him by the ankle across the line. Oh, come on! At least put up a challenge, Chris complained before pinching the bridge of his nose with a sigh. Fine, whatever. Duncan, Beth, and Izzy get immunity and we are on to the final matchup, I guess, Chris said as Lindsay pouted at not being able to do anything in this challenge. So which one of us do you think is going on a pole? Gwen asked as Naruto rubbed his chin. I'm hoping I get to go on there since it looks pretty fun, he said as Gwen chuckled and rolled her eyes. I'd much rather be pulling than having myself pulled off, so we'll see, Gwen said as Chris pulled out the next set of names. Last round. On the pole are Leshwana and Ezekiel. Pulling off Leshwana are Gwen and DJ, while Ezekiel gets Naruto and, by random draw, Eva, Chris said as Leshwana cheered a bit while Ezekiel looked confident. I'm not scared. I mean, she only won last time cause she pulled off a girl and I'm a man, Ezekiel said as everybody froze. What did he just say? Eva growled out as Naruto, Gwen, and DJ all took a step back from her as she looked like she was about to rip out someone's throat. What? Guys are like stronger than girls. It's a fact. She won't be able to pull me off cause she's a girl and girls are weak. Just like Pa told me, Ezekiel said as Chris buried his face in his hand and Naruto patted Eva on the back. You know what, I'll leave him to you, have at him, just try not to kill the boy, Naruto said as Chris quickly rose his hand. Ready and go, Chris said as he made sure the camera crews were focused on Eva. Guys are stronger than girls? I'm weak. I'll show you weak, Eva roared as she didn't grab Ezekiel but the pole he was holding onto before she started to pull it up out of the beach. Okay, everybody back. Make some room, Naruto warned as they watched Eva lift both the pole and Ezekiel up above her before she javelin tossed the pole over the line before stomping after it. I'm not weak, you little misogynistic pig, so get things straight, Eva said as she proceeded to pull Ezekiel off the pole and let him fall just to show how strong she was. Okay, Naruto and Leshwana get immunity while Eva's team, when they are made, will be given an advantage in the next challenge, Chris said as he was surprised by Eva's feat of strength given the pole was easily 15 feet long with 5 of those feet buried and embedded in the sand. And do I even need to ask who you all want to eliminate? Chris asked as he watched as all the women and men glared towards the confused homeschooled boy. I'm pretty sure this is majority, so I'd get him off the island before someone like Eva murders the kid on live television, Naruto said as it was taking him, DJ, Jeff, and Duncan to keep the bodybuilder back from strangling the kid. What? Dudes, you can't eliminate me, Ezekiel yelled as 2 interns picked him up and started to take him away back to the docks. Well, now that a murder was narrowly escaped and the numbers are even, come and meet me by the campfire for team assignments, Chris said as he hopped back on his quad and drove off, causing everyone to groan as they followed the host. You okay, Eva? Naruto asked as they let go of her, the other guys and campers hurrying off as Naruto stayed behind a bit. He made sure to give her space as she panted in rage a bit and clenched her fists. That little asshole, do I look weak? She yelled, glaring at him as Naruto calmly held his hands up and put them on her fists to lower them. Trust me, you don't look weak at all, as I'm certain you are the strongest camper here physically. That kid is just a misogynic, don't let his words get to you as you proved to him and everyone else how wrong he was, he told her gently, wanting to keep her calm and reassure her as she took a few calming breaths. You're right. I'm here and that little punk is gone. Thanks, I guess, Eva said, visibly calming down and blushing a bit as she apologized before Naruto took his hands off of hers with a smile. Great! Now we really should catch up to the others as everyone is almost to the campfire, he told her, getting her to nod before she walked alongside him as they returned to the others. Good, you are all here! Now hurry and sit down so I can form your teams for the next 8 weeks, Chris said as he still sat on his quad with a smile as he held a piece of paper in his hands while 2 cloths, one a dull red while the other was a dull green, were rolled up and sitting behind him. Here's the deal now, we are going to split you up into 2 teams and when I call your name please come stand over here, Chris said before motioning to the right of him. Gwen, Trent, Heather, Cody, Lindsay, Beth, Katie, Owen, Leshwana, Justin, and Noah, he listed before tossing the green rolled-up cloth over to Owen. From this moment on you are officially known as the Screaming Gophers, Chris said as Owen cheered as the cloth unrolled to show the team's logo. Wait! What about Sadie? Katie said worriedly before Chris ignored her and pointed to the others. The rest of you, over here. Jeff, Bridget, DJ, Tyler, Sadie, Izzy, Courtney, Naruto, Duncan, Eva, and Harold, Chris said as those whose names were called out started to move over to his left. But Katie's a gopher. I have to be a gopher, Sadie said as Courtney helped console her. So I guess it means we're enemies from here on out, Naruto teased as he looked over to Gwen who smirked and nodded. I'm not going to go easy on you just because you let me hold your guitar, she said with a smirk as he chuckled and nodded. That's fair, but my offer to teach you still stands. Our teams may be enemies but doesn't mean I have to hate you or not speak to you, Naruto said as he walked over to his team with a smirk while Gwen smiled and made her way over to her team. You guys, Chris said as the other team came together before tossing the red cloth to Naruto who caught it and let it unroll. We'll be officially known as the Killer Base, he said as before looking to both teams now that they had officially been formed. All right, campers. From now on you and your team will be on camera in all public areas during this competition. You will also be able to share your innermost thoughts on tape with video diaries anytime you want to let the audience at home know what you're really thinking or to just get something off your chest at what I like to call the confessional, Chris said as he motioned towards an old-fashioned outhouse a bit in the distance. Now Gophers will take the east cabin while Base get the west. Your things have been moved in already, so all that is needed is for you all to pick your beds. Though with this being the first day, consider the rest of the day your time to get situated in here before lunch is served in 30 minutes, Chris said as he shrugged his shoulders and revved up his quad. Wait, will there be any kind of chaperone while we are here? Jeff asked as Chris shrugged his shoulders again. You are all between 16 and 18, 16 being when counselors in training would start, so besides me you will be unsupervised. Just don't do anything stupid since you all are on camera, Chris added before driving off, leaving them to their own devices. Naruto smiled as so far he was liking how things were going, and after getting unpacked, which went rather smoothly other than a cockroach incident, they were now all relaxing in the main hall. The chef, so far, was an interesting man in Naruto's book as he reminded him of his friend's B's brother Ai. The man, who told them to call him Chef Hatchet, was a large, muscular, dark-skinned man who was bald with a mustache and a small goatee. The food looked odd, but he had seen weirder whenever his other friend Fu or his sister tried to cook. What? You gonna say something as well, Blondie? Chef yelled as Naruto looked at his tray. No sir, food is food honestly. Doesn't look too bad. Thanks I guess, Naruto said with a chuckle as Chef just rose an eyebrow and shrugged his shoulders. Confessional. Honestly, so far I'm loving this, Naruto said as he sat in the outhouse camera, trying it out for the first time. This is different from what I'm used to, but that's good as I signed up for this because I wanted a breather. So far I've met some people, one who somewhat has caught my eye, and I might make some friends here. All in all I can say this is going to be great, he finished as he leaned back with a smirk. Confessional end. Next day. Naruto groaned as a loud air horn was played through the intercom system of the camp before he got out of bed as Chris's voice clicked onto the intercom. Everybody swimsuit up and meet at the main hall where some interns will take you via golf carts to the first reward challenge of the show. I hope none of you are scared of heights, Chris announced before the intercom cut out. Great, first thing in the morning and a challenge. This'll be great. Duncan groaned out as he fell out of his bed with a glare, obviously not happy about being woken up like that. They didn't waste too much time getting changed into their swimsuits in the communal bathrooms before they, in groups of 2 and 3 on the 2 golf carts the interns had for them, made their way to the challenge. So what do you think they'll have us do? Naruto asked, his swimsuit consisting of a pair of black shorts that had a red chain design crisscrossing on the right leg, as he looked over to Gwen as she sat beside him, their teams mixed together to make things faster. He's making us get in swimsuits, so it's either something where we might get messy or something fully involving water. Either way, I'm not too confident it'll be pleasant, Gwen said as she crossed her arms. Her swimsuit consisting of a strapless black and rather tight tube top style top and black short shorts made of the same waterproof material as her top, while Naruto smirked excitedly. I don't know, personally I'm really excited for this. And since it's a reward challenge we don't have to worry too much, Naruto pointed out while Gwen shrugged a bit as the golf cart continued on, only for Gwen to start getting worried the further up the island's massive cliff they got. No way. You can't be serious, Gwen said as she arrived at the top of the cliff where Chris and the others were waiting for them. Oh, but Gwen, trust me, this reward will be very useful in surviving the island. Now listen up, as this challenge is threefold, Chris said as he held up one finger. Your first task is to jump off this 1,000-foot high cliff into the lake, Chris said as Bridget chuckled. Piece of cake, she said as Chris smirked and motioned to the cliff side. If you look down you will see 2 target areas. The wider area represents the part of the lake that we have stocked with psychotic man-eating sharks. Inside that area though is a safe zone which is your target area, Chris said, ignoring the worried looks around him. For each member of your team that jumps and actually survives there will be a crate of supplies waiting below. Inside each crate are the supplies that you'll need for the second part of the challenge, which is building a hot tub, he said as the campers started to smile at the promise of a hot tub. The team with the best one gets to have a wicked hot tub party tonight. The losers will have to watch and be refused to join unless the other team feels gracious enough to let you in, Chris said, finishing it off with a shrug. Because Eva ended up being randomly picked yesterday and won both rounds she was in, her team gets some wicked carts to help transport the crates as well as some possibly better tools. And because of that killer base, you're up first, Chris said. He stepped back to let them decide. So, who's first? Bridget asked as she peered over the edge only for silence from her team. Naruto even chose to stay quiet as he'd much rather have someone else test the waters first before him, as he wasn't super eager to jumping into shark-infested waters. Ladies first, Duncan said as Bridget groaned. Fine, I'll go first. It's no big deal, just an insane cliff dive into a lake of angry sharks, she said before she dove off the cliff, safely making it into the inner circle below. One by one Naruto watched as his teammates dove into the water, him waiting near the end while Gwen edged him along. What, you aren't scared, are you? She teased as he chuckled and rolled his eyes. No, I just want to stay up here a bit longer. Better things to see up here, he said with a smirk before Gwen blushed a bit as she noticed he was looking over at her and her swimsuit with a bit nervous smile, and what she swore was a light blush on his cheeks, despite his tan skin making it hard to tell. What are you looking at? She asked, a bit embarrassed before he smiled and met her eyes. Honestly, you and how the swimsuit looks great on you, he said with a smirk as he looked her over a bit. He might not have much experience with actual women, as this was the first time he had ever flirted with someone, and not have them just flirt with him when he was uninterested. He didn't know how to do it a bit. Gwen didn't have much experience with boys, as her goth appearance didn't make them come running to her, so she was a bit taken aback how straightforward he was being and how his eyes told her he was being serious about the compliment. Well, don't stare too much, Gwen said as she crossed her arms and looked away from him, a blush dusting over her pale skin. Oh, so a little is okay then? He asked, making her laugh at his odd and funny response before she looked up at him and rolled her eyes, which made him chuckle as well. Come on, Naruto, you're up, so stop flirting, Chris teased as Naruto sent a glare towards the host that only made Chris smirk. DJ and Courtney chicken out while Katie and Sadie, the latter having changed teams in place of Izzy, have all jumped, so it's only you, he said as Naruto nodded and walked over to the ledge. See you at the bottom, Naruto said with a smirk as he stepped backwards off the cliff and let himself fall as he looked up at the sky. His smirk grew as he did a few free fall back flip spins before making his body point straight down so he could dive into the water safely. Woo! That was awesome! Naruto cheered, pushing his still spiky hair back off from in front of his eyes as he looked over to his team who were also cheering at him, before a boat came over to pick him up. Nice going, man, those flips were sick, Jeff said as he bumped fists with Naruto as he made it back onto shore. Thanks, man, now let's get those crates loaded up so we can be ready to go once the other team makes it down, Naruto said as he watched Heather get seemingly thrown over with Leshwana following after. He continued to watch while getting the crates up as one by one the other team started to jump, chuckling mainly at Gwen as she made her way down, as one by one they all made it down. Justin, though, was the only one to really land outside the safe zone before the sharks oddly brought him back to shore with hearts in their eyes, while Beth was the only chicken of her team before only Owen was left. Everyone was a bit nervous about him jumping, but he proved them wrong as he leapt off the cliff and cannonballed hard into the safe zone, the result of which caused a massive wave to whip the boat out of the water and everyone on the shore to be pushed back, tangled and toppled from the force of the wave. It had even been powerful enough to send a shark up into a tree and another buried in the beach around them. Great job, guys! Now the final stint starts. Start taking your crates back to camp. You can get changed after you are done since you'll need your suits for the hot tub party, Chris said over a megaphone before Naruto chuckled and pushed himself up off the beach, helping some of his nearby teammates get back on their feet as well. Well, you heard the man legs get moving, Naruto said with a chuckle as he noticed there were 4 carts. Everyone help get the carts back up so me, Eva, Duncan, and Jeff can start pulling them back to camp as fast as we can, Naruto said, taking a bit of charge as everyone nodded along. Wait, I've actually had experience as a CIT, so I should lead so we do things most efficiently, Courtney said as Eva turned and glared at her. Quiet, chicken, and help get the carts back up on their wheels, she growled out as Naruto frowned. Also, we don't need someone ordering us around, that just makes people resent. We need to work together as a team and not be bossed around, Naruto said as he rubbed the back of his neck, not trying to bag on her but hopefully helping her not be worried about leading everybody. With the carts and the ones pulling it, they were able to make it back to camp incredibly fast with the others shortly behind. We should start opening the boxes so we can get the pieces out, right? Duncan asked as Naruto nodded and tossed him a crowbar, one of the tools that Eva had won them. Get everything out. Look for instructions and then we can get started, Naruto said as Katie and Sadie rose their hands. Naruto, we need to go to the bathroom, Katie said as Naruto chuckled and nodded. Then go ahead, no need to ask as right now we are just unpacking. You two can help when you get back, he said as the girls smiled and hugged him before rushing off to the bathroom. I found some wood, Tyler said as he held up boards. I think this is a pull liner, Eva said with a frown before Naruto nodded with a smile. Good, we are finding the pieces quickly. All we need are these? Naruto started to say before DJ interrupted a bit unsure, as he held out a folded-up piece of paper. Yes, with the instructions now we can start, Naruto said while he started to unfold them. So where do we start? Bridget asked, them all looking towards him, although he felt it wasn't because he had the directions. Okay, I guess we start from the floor up with this thing, so we are going to need these pieces, he said, allowing everyone to look at the directions before they quickly started to work together and start building the hot tub. Ugh! You see, the other team is already started. I told you we should have hurried and not waited for Owen to find his stupid trunks, Heather yelled as the other team apparently had to push, pull, and roll their crates to camp from the beach. They had carts. What do you expect? Trent said as he was a bit unsure why Heather was getting so angry at them. Whatever, just hurry and get the stuff out of the crates, she ordered as her team groaned and started to get things unpacked. Okay, we're back. How can we help? Katie and Sadie said in unison as Bridget helped them get caught up so they could continue building the hot tub. With the speed they were going, they were easily able to finish their tub, it looking like it did on the front of their instructions, by the time the other team was barely halfway done. Though since the challenge was who could make the best hot tub, they had to wait until the gophers were able to complete theirs, which was held together with duct tape as the boards around the base were jagged. Chris didn't take long to decide that the killer base were the winners, as the second he tapped the screaming gopher's tub it had fallen apart. Killer base! Enjoy your hot tub part! Everyone else get changed and watch in jealousy. As an added benefit, since this is a party, chef will bring your food here. Enjoy your hot tub, Chris said as the other team grumbled, upset that they lost as the killer base cheered for their victory. Later that night, Gwen groaned as she tossed and turned in her bed, unable to sleep as the combination of crickets and ambient noises made it hard for her. Though just as she was about to head back to bed, her ears picked up on the sounds of a guitar among the noises. He can't be out there playing. It's like 3 in the morning, Gwen thought as she silently slipped out of her bed and cabin, wearing a black shirt and black pajama pants as her sleepwear, before following the sound of the music. She rose her brow in confusion as she found Naruto sitting in front of a lit campfire with his guitar in hand, leaning against a log before he noticed her and frowned. Drat, did I wake you up? Naruto asked as Gwen shook her head and looked down at him. I couldn't sleep and I heard a guitar, figuring it was you, before I left to check. Why are you out here? She asked as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Can't sleep either, that and music helps me relax. My job keeps awake for long random periods of time, so my sleep schedule has been messed up for a while. I already talked to Chris about it, and he said this is fine as long as I put out my fire, he said before patting the log behind him with a smile. You can sit down if you want to. I always find if you can't sleep, company helps pass the time awake, he added before Gwen shrugged her shoulders and sat down on the log before he slid up and sat next to her. So how was your hot tub party? Gwen asked with a smirk as Naruto chuckled and shrugged his shoulders. Not really my kind of thing, but at least the hot tub was relaxing. I tried to ask if some of you could join, but my team was against it. If you want, we can take a quick dip, Naruto said as he scratched his cheek with an embarrassed smile before Gwen rolled her eyes and shoved him playfully with a smile. Sorry, but late at night isn't a good idea, maybe another time, she teased as he nodded and rubbed his chin. Rain check, got it. Though if you want, we can start your guitar lessons, he said with a smile as he slipped the strap off his guitar off and offered his guitar over to Gwen. Wait, you were actually serious about that? She asked as he nodded with a smile. Of course, do you still want to learn? He asked as she looked down at his guitar before looking back up at him and nodding. Sure, but I can't promise I'll be a good student, she teased before he chuckled and slid the strap of the guitar over her. Nonsense, it'll be fine. Now we'll start with the basics, he started as he showed her how to hold the guitar and where to put her fingers. The lesson went on until they both started to get drowsy and they decided to head back to bed, not aware of the smile and blush they both had as they enjoyed their time together. Naruto couldn't help but smile as he silently put his guitar away. This show might be even better than I thought at first, he thought, unaware of the matching thoughts that Gwen was having over in her cabin before he laid down, excited to see what tomorrow would bring. Warning, we will be delving off from canon quite a bit in this story. With Naruto, things will happen quite differently, so everybody is in danger. The morning at Camp Wawanakwa was peaceful as the sun was just starting to come up and the camp was silent from everyone sleeping, that is until the sound of an air horn being blown through a megaphone blared out, jarring everyone awake. Good morning, campers! Meet me by the docks in 10 minutes for the first challenge of the day. Also be sure to put on your swimsuits because all but one of you will be getting wet, Chris said through the megaphone as the campers all groaned to themselves. It's like 7 in the morning. Who does he think we are? Farmers? Leshwana yelled as the majority of the campers agreed. Naruto groaned a bit as he got out of bed, being somewhat used to being woken up early but not so abruptly. Ugh, that's definitely one way to be woken up in the morning, Naruto grumbled as the guys around him nodded. He did mention we'd have a challenge every 3 days, Duncan said as he grabbed his suit and headed out the door. Duncan did have a point. 3 days of rest in between challenges was nice, but then again it didn't make being woken up at the brink of dawn any better. He had actually enjoyed the 3 days before as he used it to get to know some of the others around camp, and even spend some more time with a certain goth girl that was honestly really nice to hang out with. As they eventually made their way to the docks, they were faced with the sight of their next challenge, which looked simply but quickly made them think there had to be more to it. On the dock there were 22 poles near the edge with a rope tied around the top of it, green for gophers and red for base, which had 5 knots in it. Behind the pole, on the very edge of the dock, looked to be a small platform. Welcome, campers, to the first challenge of today, and while a small one compared to the next, it is big, as you will be playing for individual immunity. Meaning if you win this and your team loses the main challenge later today, you will be safe, Chris said before he motioned to the poles. And here is the site of your challenge, which I like to call Backsplash, Chris said before he whistled and an intern came over. This is how it will go. You will get randomly assigned to a platform according to your team and stand on the small platform, he said before pointing to the intern, who got onto the platform and held onto the rope, where you will hold onto the rope to keep yourself from falling back. Every 5 minutes though, you will have to move your hands past the next knot and will continue to do so until you fall in, he said as they watched the intern nervously move his hands to the next knot before Chris shoved him and made him fall. Great, wake up early and get a cold dip in the water and tire out our arms. Sounds wonderful, Noah sighed before Izzy bounced over to one of the poles. Oh, this reminds me of hiking up the mountain, though it was way more vertical, Izzy said as she stood on top of one of the poles. Say, should we expect more of these personal immunity challenges? Heather asked as Chris shrugged his shoulders. If I feel like it now, Izzy, get off from on top of the pole and everyone onto the platform so we can begin. Chris hurried them along onto the platforms before Owen held up his hand. Chris, are there any bigger platforms? Mine is kind of small, Owen said with a frown before Chris shook his head. Sorry, my man, got to keep them all the same, the host said before quickly taking a step back. Okay, remember. Every 5 minutes this timer will go off and you move down a knot. This time will either stop once everyone falls or until it gets to where those left standing are perpendicular with the pole, Chris said before he blew his air horn, signaling the start of the challenge. This is easy. It'll be no problem at all for me to win this with my awesome skills, Harold said as he readjusted his feet before that brought him off balance, causing him to fall into the water. Shortly after Harold took a dip, Owen and Noah were quick to follow while many others looked on the edge of falling. Well, you all are looking good so far, save for a few, Chris said as he walked up and down the row of poles before the alarm went off. And there goes the first timer. Down a knot and lean on back. Just so you all know, you only have 10 seconds to get past the knot or else you are eliminated, he said, getting groans from everyone as they moved down a knot before Cody, Beth, and Lindsay fell off due to rushing and losing their balance. Gwen frowned a bit as she wobbled on her platform while carefully adjusting her grip as she looked over to see Naruto, who was about 5 posts away, seemingly effortlessly keep his balance. Gwen, is it? How are you hanging in? A voice asked as Gwen looked next to her to see her teammate Trent smiling at her. Yeah. I guess I'm doing okay, she said as shrugged her shoulders a bit before she quickly steadied herself. She had talked to Trent a bit when around her team and he seemed like a nice guy, and like Naruto, had a musician vibe to him, but in a different way with Trent's being mellower. Also, while Naruto seemed to check her out more, which was new to her and somewhat interesting to experience, Trent wasn't as forward. She wasn't exactly looking for a boyfriend or anything, but the two musicians somewhat were interesting. What about you? She asked as Trent frowned a bit. A bit difficult, but I should be fine for now. Next knot down, I'm not sure, Trent said with a chuckle. By the time the buzzer went off again, some campers had fallen off either due to losing balance on the wobbly platform or the grip giving out. From the base, Courtney, Katie, Sadie, DJ, and Tyler had fallen off, while from the Gophers, Justin, Heather, and Leshwana had. Doing great job so far. Some of you like Eva, Naruto, and Jeff are doing great, while some of you I'm surprised are still on here, Chris said as he smirked at them. You know the deal. Down a knot and lean on back while trying not to let gravity pull you down, he said as the campers slowly started to move their hands down, but some lost it on the lean back. In the end, from base there were only Naruto, Eva, and Jeff left, and from Gopher there was only Izzy left, who seemed to be enjoying it by how she was giggling. Whoa, this is so trippy and awesome, Izzy said as she looked around as they were only 2 knots away from 90 degrees. Nice holding on for this long, bro, Jeff said as he smiled over to Naruto, who chuckled and tightened his grip. You too, man. Not too sure though how much longer I can keep up. What about you? He asked as the party boy frowned a bit. Yeah, this is killing my arms, but I can last a bit longer. All those all that time in weights class helped. Jeff quickly covered up as Naruto chuckled, knowing what the party boy was going to really say. What about you, Eva? How you holding up? Naruto asked as the bodybuilding woman a few posts over seemed like she was having absolutely no troubles. I can keep this up all day, she said bluntly as she looked ahead of her with a serious look in her eyes. Wow, that's some great upper body strength you got to have there. I mean, I do a lot of heavy lifting for my job, but even this is murder on my arms, Naruto said with an impressed whistle that he swore got Eva's lip to twitch up a bit in an attempted smirk before she stopped it. Gwen, as she worked on getting dry from her dip in the water, was impressed as she watched Naruto lean back and continue to hold on. She chuckled a bit as Naruto noticed her and sent her a smirk and motioned with his head for her to come towards him before quickly rebalancing himself. Having fun there, Naruto? She asked as he looked up at her. Barrels of it. You did pretty good holding on as well, Gwen, he said while she rolled her eyes. Not really, but I know my arms are going to feel it for the next few days, she said with a groan as she rubbed her sore arms. How are yours not on fire? She asked before he smirked a bit. My job helps, I mean these muscles aren't just for show after all, he teased as Gwen faintly blushed, quickly looking away as she found herself staring a bit at his abs. She was about to say something back at him, asking what his job was before the buzzer went off again. Woo! One more down you all and let's see who falls, Chris said excitedly as he honestly didn't expect anyone to get this far and wanted to see if anyone could get perpendicular. Naruto struggled a bit as he slowly moved his hands down and slowed his lean back to not fall off, not even looking over as, who he figured to be, Jeff fell into the water. This is really getting intense here, people, with just Izzy, Eva, and Naruto left leaning back, but from the look on Naruto's face he might be out next, Chris said as Naruto chuckled. Gee, thanks for the boost of confidence there, Chris, Naruto joked as Gwen rolled her eyes. Do you really want immunity this badly? Gwen asked as Naruto merely smiled. Nope. Consider this a little exercise. I figure I'm safe with my team right now, I just like the challenge, Naruto said, making Gwen chuckle a bit, which made Naruto smile before she left him to stand by the others. Naruto sadly only lasted another 2 minutes after that before his arms gave out, and he fell back into the water. That was fun! Can someone help me up since my arms are like noodles? Naruto asked before Duncan and DJ helped pull him up. You did really good, man, strongest guy in camp for sure, Duncan said with a nod of respect before DJ handed Naruto a towel. Thanks, but Eva is definitely a beast right now, Naruto said as he and many others from his team were impressed at how solid she still was and how she was showing no visible signs of tiring. Izzy is still going strong, though I feel that is just cause she's a bit out there, Cody pointed out as the orange-haired girl was giggling excitedly as she hung back, which only made everyone nod along with him. Feels like I'm water skiing, Izzy said as she rose one leg up into the air excitedly before she started to wobble like crazy and she fell back into the water. Ah man, I was having fun with that, Izzy said with a pout before Eva pulled herself up with the rope. And the winner is Eva! Nice feat of strength there, Chris said as Eva shrugged her shoulders. And because of that you have immunity for the next challenge to protect yourself from elimination should your team lose, he said before he tossed her a wooden carving of his head. That is the McLean statue of immunity. It only works for you and keep it around as I will ask for it back after the challenge is over, he said while Eva rolled her eyes, wishing she could throw it away, before she pocketed it, and he turned towards the others. Okay, I want you all to get back into your normal clothes and meet me back in front of the cabins again in 10 minutes for the real challenge of the day, Chris quickly said as the campers groaned. Come on, Chris, our arms are dead from this. Are we really doing it immediately after? Leshwana asked as Chris nodded. Yup. You'll see why once the challenge is revealed. Now hurry up and get changed. We are burning daylight here, he said before walking off, leaving them to quickly dry off and get changed to continue on to the next challenge. Man, he really is working us hard today. Naruto groaned as he walked beside Gwen, who sighed and nodded along. Yeah, and if he's not willing to let us rest, then I have a real bad feeling about the next challenge, she muttered while Naruto frowned and nodded. Well, whatever it is, I doubt it'll be that bad, as this is the start of things and I feel he wants to work up to the really bad stuff, he said before Gwen rolled her eyes. Oh joy, so we have worse things to look forward to, Gwen grumbled out before they headed into their cabins to quickly change and meet back up with Chris out in front for the rest of their challenge of the day. Now, wasn't that a nice warm-up first thing in the morning, but you can't rest yet, as the first part of the main challenge today is a 20-kilometer run around the lake, Chris yelled as everyone groaned from a mix of tiredness and soreness. You must think you are real funny, Eva growled out as she, while not sore from the first challenge, did not like being woken up early like this before she stomped her way towards Chris before Naruto and Jeff struggled to hold her back. Easy there, Eva, I know you want to murder him, as we all do right now, but don't get kicked off right after you won immunity for a well-deserved punch, Naruto said, talking down Eva before she seemed to calm down a bit and relax. Fine. I'm fine. Might as well get this over with, Eva grumbled as she walked off. Wow, Eva really needs to work on her anger, Courtney said with a frown while Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I think it's mainly her not being a morning person, as most of us aren't. She'll calm down the more she wakes up, Naruto said, defending Eva as sure she was a sort of upset and angry a lot, but it normally presented by her not talking to others or slightly glaring, so it wasn't that bad. Yeah, but in the last 3 days she's thrown her suitcase out a window and broke a bathroom lock, Courtney said as Naruto shrugged his shoulders again. Look, I already asked her about that when I was helping her pick up her luggage, and it was more her mad at herself for forgetting something important. The bathroom lock thing was more likely her just in a rush to pee, as I don't know about you, but I've kicked open a door once or twice due to really needing to pee, he said as Courtney was about to say something before he held up his hand to stop her. Basically what I'm saying is, yes, she might have anger issues, but bringing them up and mentioning them to her won't do anything but make her angry, since none of us like to have our flaws pointed out, he said as Courtney stared at him in shock. Wow, that's really mature, Courtney said before Naruto chuckled. I know, right? You wouldn't picture it given my rocker vibe, right? He asked as Courtney blushed embarrassedly. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that, she said as he waved her off. Relax, the only reason I'm this mature about it is because I have a friend who dealt with anger issues and I was there to help him. Any other topic and I'll be as dense as any other guy, but I'm good at what I have experience with, he said with a smirk, patting her on the back before he and Courtney joined the others as they lined up for the 20-kilometer run. Naruto smirked as he stood next to an upset-looking Gwen. I am so not running this long this early in the morning right after that arm-killing challenge, she droned out as Naruto chuckled and smirked at her. Want me to carry you? He asked as she rose an eyebrow at him. You just want a reason to hold me, don't you? Gwen asked as Naruto looked down at her, his hand on his chest in mock hurt. That isn't true, but yeah, it's a good amount of it, he said with a laugh while she just rolled her eyes. Thanks, but no thanks, you goof, she said as at times she found the blonde-haired teen she considered a bit of a friend so odd. From the prank stories he told her about, and the odd songs he knew how to play on his guitar, he was quite the oddball. Okay campers, enough talk. Your run starts in 3, 2, 1, go! Chris counted down and yelled before firing a starter pistol, and the majority of campers started running and the few who weren't just started to walk. Well, if you don't want to run, then I guess I'll see you at the mess hall, Naruto said as Gwen nodded and he started to run ahead of her and the others who weren't running. It didn't take him long to catch up to Eva, who had a good lead compared to the rest. Wow, not even tired from the last challenge? You really are a fierce competitor. I'm just glad you are on my team, Naruto said with a chuckle as Eva frowned and looked away from him. You aren't too shabby either, since, you lasted pretty long as well, Eva said as she honestly didn't hate this one teammate of hers or was angered by things he did. He seemed to help her, if anything. It was odd as most people just stayed away from her. I mean, I do work out and stay in shape, but not as serious as you do, he said as Eva glared. What? Are you saying I have no life? She yelled as Naruto shook his head, not sent away by her anger. Not at all, Your strength is really amazing, that's all. To get this strong this early in your life is an amazing feat," he said as she was a bit shocked by his words and how he didn't yell back or anything like she was used to when it came to talking to others. "Say, I really want to race you. You up for it?" he asked, bringing her out of her shock before she smirked a bit. "If you can even keep up," she said before she started running faster, making him chuckle and push himself to keep up with her. The run, now that they had someone to race against, went by rather fast for the both of them as they were easily the first to arrive at the mess hall, and by a large margin. Guess you aren't as weak as the others," Eva said, slightly panting as Naruto hunched over the table, catching his breath before he smirked up at Eva. "Thanks, I strive to impress," Naruto panted out, giving her a wink before sitting down while they waited for more people to finish up. It took a while considering how fast the two of them raced, but eventually everyone arrived, with the last remaining members of the killer base showing up last. "About time you all show up! We just lost the challenge," Courtney yelled as Harold walked in. "I think I'm having heart palpitations," he said before wobbly making his way to the table. "Wait, that means we win," Heather said while she and the rest of her team cheered until Chris held up his hand. "Hold your horses, guys. That wasn't the challenge. As I said earlier, the race was the first part, and winning it doesn't earn you anything," he said, quickly deflating the gopher's joy before he grabbed a cord that was attached to a nearby curtain. "Now who's hungry?" Chris ate as he pulled at the cord, opening the curtain and revealing a long table stacked with a Thanksgiving-style dinner. He didn't even have time to say anything else as many of the campers rushed the table. "Man, reminds me of dinners at home," Naruto said with a smile as he enjoyed a drumstick, mashed potatoes, corn, and a bunch of other things on his plate. "You have feasts like this at your place?" Katie asked as she and Sadie shared a plate nearby him. "Yeah, my mom tends to go overboard whenever I'm home since my job keeps me away a lot, making it where every time I come home I get stuffed," Naruto said with a chuckle as DJ nodded. "I understand since my mama does the same thing. Man, makes me miss her cooking even more as nothing can compare," DJ said as he gained a nod of agreement from Naruto and a few others while they all enjoyed the feast. The food though didn't last too long, as with Owen going back for seconds with the size of his servings it wasn't ever really going to be leftovers. Though because of Owen's rather large appetite it caused Chris to have to placate him with several cans of baked beans that he had just in case. "Are you all filled up? Good," Chris said, taking the groans from the campers as them agreeing. "You better be, because it's time for the actual challenge," Chris said as he pulled out his megaphone again. "Seriously? What challenge could involve us killing our arms, running around, and then eating a feast?" Trent asked before Chris gained a grin that screamed, "I'm glad you asked." "Your challenge is called the wake-a-thon," he yelled into the megaphone with a massive smirk. "The what-a-thon?" Owen asked as he finished up his beans, tossing the empty can over his shoulder to join the mountain he had formed behind him. "Don't worry, this is an easy one. The team with the last camper standing wins invincibility. You fall asleep and you are out," Chris yelled as Gwen rubbed her temples. "So everything up to this was an attempt to make it harder for us to stay awake?" Gwen asked as Chris nodded with a cat that ate the canary grin. "Yes, now move on out of the mess hall," Chris yelled as they made their way out. "So how long do you think before everyone is out cold? Some of these people don't look like they are too good at staying up for long stints," Naruto said as he stood next to Gwen, waiting for everyone in front of them to file out. "About an hour, give or take, maybe less," she said as both of them watched an already half-awake Owen walk past them. "Say, Chris, are we allowed to bring out things to help ourselves stay awake? I'm not talking like caffeine or anything though," Naruto said as Chris frowned a bit, debating it in his head before shrugging his shoulders. "If it prolongs the game or makes things harder for others to stay awake, then go for it. Meet us by the campfire when you're done," Chris said as Naruto smiled, deciding to go and grab it real quick as it was more or less his ace in the hole. It didn't take him long to grab what he had in mind and arrive at the campfire with a smirk as Gwen looked at him with a raised eyebrow. "Really, your guitar?" she said before she widened her eyes. "Wait, you're planning to use your music to keep your side awake or something, aren't you?" Gwen added as Naruto nodded and sat down on an empty stump next to her. "Oh, definitely. Plus I do know some softer songs that might make things harder. All's fair in love and war, Gwen, he said with a wink as she frowned. Come on, that can't be fair, Heather commented as she looked to Chris before Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I checked with him beforehand, Heather, but just because I can doesn't mean my team instantly wins. Don't give up or anything, as it wouldn't be as fun when we win, Naruto said with a smirk towards her, making Heather somewhat narrow her eyes but smirk back at him. Oh! Oh! Can you do requests? Katie and Sadie asked as they both were seated behind him. Of course, though all depends on if I know the song, Naruto said while he strummed his guitar, tweaking with the volume on his amp that he wore on his hip to make it a nice listening volume. Naruto enjoyed himself as he played requests from his teammates, and even some non-teammates. The time passed quickly as they mainly talked, played some songs and moved around. Before most of them really noticed, they had all stayed up for 12 hours. Nice going, everyone. Everybody is still awake at the 12-hour mark, Chris said as mostly everyone looked tired, a few worse off than others. Woohoo! Stay awake for 12 hours? I can do that in my sleep! Owen cheered, pumping his fist into the air before freezing and falling forward, loudly snoring, showing how he had instantly passed out. Well, that's one down, Naruto commented while he strummed on his guitar, having made his way down onto the ground and rested his back against the stump he used to be sitting on, before he looked up at Gwen. This is the most boring thing I've ever done, Gwen groaned out as Naruto nodded. Yeah, doing nothing is boring, hence why I have my guitar. If you want, I can give you more lessons, Naruto offered before Gwen smiled and shook her head. Maybe later when my second wind comes around, if it does. Don't want to accidentally drop it or anything, she said before she looked around until she rose an eyebrow as Lindsay was standing upside down on her head. What are you doing? Gwen asked as she looked the girl up and down with a frown, as she was just glad that her skirt hadn't flipped. Naruto, though, found it hard to look away a bit, more due to the fact her breasts were nearly out of her shirt. Gravity had a way of affecting breasts that big rather easily. Trying to get the blood to rush to my head. I think it's working, the blonde girl said with a smile as she wiggled her legs a bit to stay balanced. Lindsay, your chest is almost out, Naruto whispered to her, getting her to look confused at him before she looked down, or rather up depending on orientation, at her breasts. Oh, you're right. Thanks, Nate, you're so sweet, Lindsay said happily as she pulled at her top a bit to where her breasts were more covered and no longer at risk of popping out. Not cool, man, a voice Naruto swore was Duncan's yelled out while Naruto rolled his eyes. Sure, he liked breasts just like any straight man, but the last thing he'd want is for a seemingly sweet girl like Lindsay to suffer a wardrobe malfunction in front of strangers and have it recorded on television, despite it being undoubtedly censored. No problem, Lindsay, and my name is Naruto, he commented, not really minding too much, as from what he had seen from her interacting with other campers it seemed she had trouble remembering names. At least she got in the same ballpark, so to speak. Can I try? Beth asked as she smiled down at Lindsay, having walked over a bit into their conversation and had patiently waited. Sure, Lindsay said, happy to help others in her own way before waving to Naruto as he walked off, smiling as he waved back to her. Lindsay, Beth, can I talk to you for a sec? Heather asked as the two girls nodded, got back on their feet, and followed Heather as she left for a bit. She is definitely trying for something. Could have been a bit more secretive about it, Duncan commented as Naruto nodded with a smirk after he sat back down. Yeah, isn't the most subtle, I'd say, but I don't know if she's going for subtle. She could be trying to be bold, you know, Naruto said as he continued to play his guitar. So how long have you been able to play like this? Duncan asked as Naruto frowned a bit and tilted his head to the side as he tried to remember. I think since I was 11 or 12, but yeah, either way it's been a while. I guess I got interested after my first rock concert, he said with a chuckle before he frowned a bit as his eyes caught something on the ground near Chris. Hey Eva, I think you dropped your MP3 player over near Chris, Naruto said as he had noticed Eva had been frantically looking around with an angry look on her face. What? Where? Eva yelled as she bolted up from her seat, looking around as she had been furious that she dropped it, and since a challenge was going on, wasn't allowed to leave the campfire area. over by where Chris is standing. At least I think it might be your MP3 player, as all I can see is something shiny," he said, watching as Eva darted towards where he pointed at before she skidded to a stop. "Thank God I found it. I would have torn this place apart to find this," Eva said as Naruto chuckled. "I know the feeling as being trapped on this island. That MP3 player is going to be very important," he said before Eva stomped her way towards him, shocking everyone as she picked him up and hugged him tightly. As her strength showed in her hug, he was thankful he quickly moved his guitar into his right hand as not to be crushed or sandwiched between them. "Thank you, I guess," she said while he rubbed her back with his one free arm. "No problem, Eva, glad I was able to save it for you," he said with a smile before she set him down and coughed into her fist. "Yeah, well, good luck staying up for the challenge," she said before she walked off back to where she was sitting before. "Whoa, dude, that was intense. How did you know she wasn't going to hit you or something?" Jeff said as Naruto rolled his eyes with a sigh. "Oh, come on, she isn't some rabid bear. The sooner you guys stop acting afraid of her and understand she isn't going to kill you for the slightest thing," Naruto said before Eva shoved Cody, who was trying to listen to her music, away from her, causing everyone to look at him with raised eyebrows. "What I said, she wasn't a bear, not that she didn't have a temper. Plus, seriously, nobody can say they wouldn't get annoyed if someone tried to get close to them without saying anything like that," Naruto said as he sat back down on the ground with a chuckle while everyone nodded as they understood it a bit. As the wake-a-thon continued, bit by bit more campers started to fall asleep. By the time the 24-hour mark rolled around from the Gophers, Izzy, Leshwana, and Noah had passed out, while from the base Bridget, Katie, and Sadie had passed out. "Congratulations, campers! You've made it to the 24-hour mark. Time to take things up a notch with fairy tales," Chris said as he pulled the sheet off of a stack of books while Chef stepped out beside him, wearing a pink sheep costume with a harp in hand. "Now no headphones in and no music drowning me out for this part," Chris added as Eva growled and pulled out her headphones while Naruto turned off his amp with a frown. "You are not serious," Gwen said as Chris smirked and opened up the first book. "I am now shush," Chris said before he cleared his throat, and Chef strummed on his harp to add to it as Chris started to read. The fairy tales were killer as Cody, Jeff, Harold, Beth, and Lindsay all passed out. Though in Cody and Beth's case they were knocked out by Owen's sleep farts, which had also claimed Noah earlier in the day. Chris's next tactic of playing the Nutcracker's dance of the sugar plum fairies wasn't as powerful, due to the lack of remaining campers, but it was powerful enough to knock out Harold and DJ, the latter who had tied himself to a tree in an attempt to stay awake, only to bring down the entire tree when he passed out. "Just need to keep moving. Got to stay awake," Courtney mumbled to herself as she jogged in place to stay awake, Duncan and Naruto somewhat sneaking peeks at her but as it jiggled slightly. "Hey Naruto, want to work out with me to help me stay awake?" Eva asked as she stared down at him and Gwen. "You still want to work out after the run and arm challenge? I swear my arms are still killing me from it," Gwen said in shock as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. "Sure, a little workout might help. Plus gives others a view," he teased as he stood up and winked at Gwen, who rolled her eyes with a smirk. "Yeah, your chiseled abs will keep me awake, or lull me to sleep. Whichever makes you feel better," she said before Naruto smiled and put his hands on his hips. "Oh, you think they're chiseled, do you?" he asked, getting a bit of a blush out of her before she shooed him off, which made him chuckle as he and Eva walked around to the other side of the campfire. "Care if I join you too? A little movement might help as well," Duncan said as Eva shrugged her shoulders. "Sure, whatever," she said before she got down to the ground and started to do some push-ups, with them joining her shortly. Honestly, the working out helped, but not for very long, although it gave some of the girls something to look at as Naruto quickly discarded his shirt. "Damn girl, that boy is fine, like third degree burns kind of hot," Leshwana purred out as she sat on a stump next to Gwen and licked her lips a bit as she and the other females stared at Naruto as he worked out. Some were more obvious about their staring, while others like Katie, Sadie, Bridget, and Courtney were a bit embarrassed to stare. I guess if you like the Adonis-like men," Courtney stuttered out a bit, her eyes glued to Naruto with a dark blush on her face as she tried to deny it. "How long can those three work out?" I mean, I figured Eva wouldn't be too tired to work out, but I'm surprised the other two can still go at it," Trent said as he walked over, his eyebrow raised at the sight in front of him. "What? I got a rep to protect," Duncan said with a slight glare before he continued to work out. "Naruto doesn't surprise me though, as I'm sure you've all seen him on his runs after breakfast," Gwen said as more often than not Naruto took a run after breakfast to show his body wasn't just for show really. "At least it shows the guy has some nice stamina," Leshwana commented, smirking at the faint pink blush on several girls' cheeks before Chris blew his air horn. "As much as this is getting us ratings from female viewers, you are taking the focus away from the challenge. Now put your shirt back on and girls stop drooling," Chris said as Naruto chuckled and stood up while some girls booed at Chris for making him put a shirt back on. "Fine, at least it helped keep me awake for a bit," he said as he slid back on his shirt, gently picking up and plugging back in his guitar. He was about to head back over to his seat next to Gwen only to frown a bit as he noticed she was busy talking with Trent now. "Fair enough, as I did get dragged away," he thought as he took a step back, bumping slightly into Justin. "Whoa, sorry there, man," Naruto said before he rose an eyebrow once he gained a closer look at the man's face. "Wait a second, he has eyes painted on top of his eyelid," Naruto said, quickly running his finger over Justin's eyelid, smearing the paint. "Shut up! No way, I got to see this," Chris said as he ran over from where he was standing just as Justin opened his eyes. "Dude, that is totally wicked. You're totally eliminated, but still it was an interesting plan," Chris said as Justin shrugged his shoulders with a sigh. Naruto had to hand it to Justin for his interesting strategy, cheating as it may, before he sat down at an empty stump and began strumming on his guitar until someone plopped down on the seat next to him. "This seat wasn't taken, was it? If it isn't, do you mind if I sit here?" Heather asked as she crossed her legs out in front of her and smiled at him. "I don't mind at all, Heather. I welcome someone to talk to," Naruto said as he stared a bit at Heather's legs, since the girl's short shorts only made her legs look even longer. Though as he stared and talked with Heather, he missed out how Gwen looked at him from the corner of her eye, slightly frowning before shaking her head and turned back to Trent. Time continued to pass as both teams fought to have the last one standing. By the time any of them really noticed, they had ended up being awake for 85 hours straight, which ended up knocking out everyone but Naruto, Duncan, and Gwen. "I'd kill for a coffee right now," Gwen groaned out as, sometime after Heather and Trent had passed out, she had moved on next to him again. "Seriously, how are you not dead looking like the rest of us?" she asked as she was surprised how okay Naruto looked after staying up this long. "Oh, trust me, my job keeps me up for days straight sometimes. I think my longest record was 5 days, Naruto said as he continued to strum on his guitar with a smirk. "Seriously, what job do you have that needs you to stay up this long?" Gwen asked as she, and a few others who had woken back up were curious as he had mentioned this job of his various times. "We'll see if either of us stick around longer, or get to know each other better, before I tell you," he teased with a wink before Chris came back to the campfire, drinking a cup of coffee. "Seriously, what is wrong with you people? Come on, fall asleep already," Chris said impatiently as he didn't expect them to last 3.5 days. "You got to hook me up, man. I'll even eat the grinds." "Anything," Gwen said as she tried reaching up to grab Chris' coffee only for him to pull it away from her. "Alright, fine. You 3 stay with me while the rest of you get up and go get a shower, for heaven's sake. You stink," he said as various campers woke up and took a cautionary sniff of themselves only to cringe a bit. "I honestly didn't want it to come to this, but you all are too damn strong, so get ready for," Chris said as he pulled out a large book and cleared his throat. "The History of Canada, a pop-up book," he finished as he opened the book to reveal a beaver cutout. Chapter 1. "The beaver, national symbol and a damn fine hat," he said with air quotes, making Duncan and Gwen groan as Naruto strummed the BUMTSH notes on his guitar with a flat look on his face. They all honestly lost track of time, but by the time he had gotten through half of the pop-up book, Duncan had passed straight out on the ground below them. "Dang, you two are beasts. For that, you two get a bathroom break before we continue. Any takers?" Chris asked as Naruto rose his hand. "Might as well, considering there are 10 more chapters of this pop-up book," Naruto said as he took off his guitar, carefully putting it in its case. Cool, as long as you don't mind company or a 5-minute time limit, Chris said while Naruto shrugged his shoulders. That's fine for a limit, and just don't come into the stall and I'll be good with it. The blonde replied as he cracked his neck and popped his joints while he made his way to the bathroom with the camera crew following behind him. He made his bathroom break very quick, not trusting himself to sit down or else he might pass out. Much to his surprise, as he returned to the campfire, he was able to catch just as Gwen fell over asleep on her stump. Finally! We have a winner! Naruto wins it for the killer base! Chris declared as Naruto held his arms up with a cheer. Awesome! Can I sleep now? He asked with a flat face, feeling the effect of 3.5 days awake crashing down on him now. If Gwen hadn't passed out, he didn't know how much longer he might have lasted. Sure, he had stayed up longer, but he had more to do during those 5 days to preoccupy himself. Yes. Sleep up and rest as you definitely deserved it, Chris said as Naruto grabbed his guitar and sluggishly made his way back to the cabin. He smiled as his team congratulated him before they too went to bed as, unlike the Screaming Gophers, they didn't have an elimination ceremony to worry about. Campfire later that night. There are only 10 marshmallows on this plate, Chris said as he stood in front of the moderately awake Screaming Gophers. When I call you name, come up and grab a marshmallow. The camper that does not receive one must immediately return to the dock of shame, catch the boat of losers, and leave. And you can never come back, ever, he said as he finished explaining the elimination process to the Gophers. You all were strong in the wake-a-thon, but one of you made it surprisingly difficult for the rest of you. Even having knocked out a few of your own team members, so this was rather unanimous, but I'm still going to draw it out, Chris said as various eyes looked over to their oblivious teammate. The first marshmallow, for making it to the final 2, goes to Gwen, he said as the half-asleep goth girl went up to grab her marshmallow. He continued to list through the names of the Gophers until only Justin and Owen were left with only one marshmallow left on the plate. Justin, you were towing the line when it came to cheating. Sure, painting your eyes is wicked, but you slept for most the first full day and a half before you were caught, Chris said, making the handsome teen worry a bit before the host nodded. But you are safe, he said, making Justin let out a sigh of relief. Owen, my man. You noxious sleep farts killed a few of your own teammates, and you were even the very first to pass out after only staying up for 12 hours. For that you must board the boat of losers and leave, he said as Owen stood up with a frown. I'm sorry guys, but it was super awesome meeting you all. Good luck, and I'll be rooting on my fellow Gophers, Owen said with a cheerful laugh as, while he might have not helped with the challenge, it was sad to see the friendly oaf leave. It was nice meeting you too, man, and thanks, Trent said as he and a few others waved off Owen before Chef drove him away on the boat. Camp. As the Gophers returned to camp, minus one large lovable oaf, Gwen was surprised to see Naruto leaning against his cabin with him looking straight at her with a smile. What are you doing awake? They were barely able to wake me up for this damn thing, Gwen said as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I was going to bathroom when I heard the boat fire up and wanted to make sure they didn't vote off my competition. I mean, you did last pretty dang long, Naruto teased as Gwen smiled and crossed her arms. Now we ended up voting off Owen, she said while Naruto nodded with a slight frown. I'll miss the big guy, but you cannot believe how much he farted in our cabin, Naruto said with a shiver before letting out a tired yawn, slightly slumping up against the cabin, making Gwen frown a bit. Hey, if you want to go back to sleep you can, as I'm about to hit the sack as well, she said as Naruto nodded. I just wanted to let you know I kind of enjoyed this challenge. Let me scout my competition pretty well. Now I know who I'll have to keep my eye on, Naruto teased with a smirk as he eyed Gwen up and down, making her lightly blush and smile. Just make sure if you keep your eye on me it's above my neck, she teased as he held his hand up like a Boy Scout. No promises, he teased again with a wink, making her blush a bit more before they both laughed a bit. I'll see you after we get some sleep. I'm not doing any late-night lessons until I unzombify, she said as he nodded. Roger that, night Gwen, he said, watching her walk over to her cabin before she looked over to him. Night Naruto, she said, smiling as she closed the door behind her, finding herself less annoyed from the challenge. Maybe she could meet some friends at this hell of a camp, or something possibly more than that. Chapter end. Tired of watching censored fanfics? Would you like to watch some very naughty, filled with the lemons fanfics without any censorship? I'm happy to announce that I opened Patreon page for you guys, where you could watch Naruto/Deku 18+ stories without any censoring. Not only that, you can also see the NSFW images of characters of the fics on my Patreon, which I make by myself. So buy your preferred tier and join our community now. Link is in the description.